Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Councilmember. How are you?
I'm fine. You?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our legislative meeting on the November 3rd, 2025. We are live and streaming. I'm hearing in Verizon Fios for the first time in half a decade, which is exciting times. So our ratings hopefully will, see the Nielsen ratings may change a little bit. But we'll see if we get advertisers in there in a minute. But I'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. I believe we have quorum, at least in the room we do. I've heard Councilmember Cologne on, and
I'm here.
good afternoon, good evening, and then Councilmember Ramos is also as well. Okay, good. So with that, we will next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will go to the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for those for a moment of silence or silent meditation. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. Any stated conflicts of interest on any agenda items that we have in front of us? See the agenda being pulled up online. Any stated conflict of interest?
I have none.
Thank you. Silence is a no. Any amendments to the agenda as stated?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move, where is it now? Legislative action item number 1. I'd like to move that to the consent agenda.
Okay. So we have to vote on that, right? Is there a motion? Your motion to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the legislative action item number 1. Motion regarding, pardon me, motion to approve the fence permit request for 4812 Madison Street. 6-foot vinyl fence in the backyard, from the legislative action portion of the agenda to the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingwood, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I was able to meet with the homeowner this evening, get a timeline of when things happen, and as far as I'm concerned, what he's been asked of by the town, both in terms of getting permits as well as restitution has been met, and that it's a fairly straightforward item from that fund.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? From the public? Okay, I will go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe is not present. Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
And the motion passes, I'll vote aye as well. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the monthly finance report. Okay. It's all good. We'll keep moving forward. We've just amended the agenda for those, for posterity's sake. Our first legislative action item has been moved to the consent agenda. All right, monthly finance report. I believe there is a presentation from staff.
Deputy Director Jones. Director Smith.
Director Jones, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Tonight's finance reports, subject to audit, cover the months of August, September, October, and then we have a year-to-date. So for October, revenues came in strong at about $5.2 million, which is up noticeably from the same month last year. Most of that increase is due to timing. Some of our major revenues, the property and income tax distributions, we did receive those earlier this year. On the expenditure side, we spent just under $1 million in October, which is consistent with what we've seen in prior years, and reflects the continued conservative spending. Looking at the year to date through October, we've collected roughly $7.6 million, at about 65% of our annual budget, compared to around 48% at this point last year. Again, we did receive more of the real estate revenue earlier this year. Expenditures total about $3.4 million, which is about 29% of the budget, which is right on target. So overall, the town is expected to reach its budgeted revenue and stay within the budgeted expenditures. If there are any questions regarding the finance reports, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any council comments on the monthly finance report?
I've none.
Thank you. Any public comments? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith and second by Councilmember Lingua. We'll go to any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Deputy Director. Next on the agenda, we have the correspondence summary. Did any correspondence come in?
Yes, there's one item on the correspondence summary from the county, and it has to do with the water and sewer plan. There are annual, there's a cycle of amendments that come out in the summertime. And so this provides all of that documentation for the council's review.
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions from staff on the report that the county provided? It seemed pretty straightforward from my perspective, but any other comments on it? Okay, seeing none. All right, we'll move forward. Next up, we have public comments. For those who are in the room, please feel free to meet us at the center and unmute the microphone. For those who are online, please raise your hand and you'll be called accordingly. Public comments, again, are an opportunity for the public to say or relay comments to the council. We'll take notes and follow up offline. Any public comments? Okay. Last call for public comments. Okay. With no public comments in the room and I see no hands online, we'll move to our presentations. First one is Sister City Program with Impala, Guatemala. Mr. Vernon Archer. Unmute it, unmute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I bring greetings from the mayor of Riverdale's, at least old sister city, Ipala, Chiquimula, Guatemala. And I think I'll start out by reading the greetings from the mayor, and then I'd be happy to make any answer any questions or comments that you may have going forward. The mayor reads, and by the way, he's a pretty fluent English speaker, so in the future he can read his own communications. Mayor Yang, on behalf of the municipality of Ipala, Chiquimula, Guatemala, I, Mayor Luzbin Javier y Javier, send my warmest greetings to you, your council, and your community. While time and significant events have come between our two municipalities since the last time representatives of our two municipalities formally met, we wish to assure you that we, Ipaltecos, continue to hold in our hearts many pleasant memories of the programs, activities, and visits between members of our communities. In that spirit, I write today seeking a dialogue with you and or anyone you might designate to represent your government to explore how we might bring back to life the lively and active Sister City program we enjoyed between 2008 and 2019, when the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted so many positive social initiatives. Should you and your community share our sentiment and desire to rejuvenate our sister cities relationship, you can count on our community to welcome persons sent to Ipala. Likewise, we would like to send representatives to Riverdale Park, as we did numerous times in years past. Looking forward with hope and confidence in hearing back from you soon. Luzbin Javier y Javier. So that's it in a nutshell. When I just by way of introduction, when I was mayor of Riverdale between 2005 and 2017, in 2008, then Mayor Raul Perez of Ipala visited Riverdale Park and seeking to build connections with communities here in Maryland, because many Ipaltecos, that's the way Guatemalans refer to themselves, the teco ending, Guatemaltecos, Ipaltecos, et cetera, that they looked for ways of building bridges and helping to solve some difficulties that may have arisen between because of this migration from Central America to the United States. And we hit it off fairly well. One of the things that immediately struck me and that he mentioned, he said, Ipala is a very traditional rural community, that gender roles were pretty well defined, and went back in, as far as people could remember. But all the men are gone. All the men have gone other places, and they're working in Mexico, working in other parts of Guatemala or the United States. And women are all of a sudden left with tasks and things to do for their families and the communities that they were never trained to do. So one of the things I'm doing is got a department of women and offering training for things like finance, household management, how to build businesses. Guatemalan society is very, very entrepreneurial. The idea that you would ever work for somebody else if you could possibly have your own business is just completely foreign to the culture. And his response kind of struck me. It's like, well, unfortunately, we have kind of the mirror image of that problem. All your guys are up here. And well, I think the honest to goodness truth is that a whole bunch of guys with no women around, usually they don't act their best. And unfortunately, we have a lot of interactions with immigrants, particularly Friday and Saturdays in the evenings, that aren't always the most positive. And he said, well, I can understand why that's the case. And we did some brainstorming over the following years. And some of the early programs we did was try to make available sporting fields and more positive things for young men to do. And we worked with Park and Planning to gain control of the Riverdale Neighborhood Park. Thank you, Councilman. And had a number of sponsored soccer tournaments, picnics, etc. And that's just one example. Over time, we came up with other ways of building bridges between the communities and having positive outcomes where before maybe they were less positive. One of the other things that because of my profession, it's surprising, of course, to everyone that I couldn't live off my mayor's salary and had to continue with the day job, which was teaching, and increasingly teaching ESOL and immigrant kids. And so one of the things that kind of naturally I was able to cultivate were interchanges of particularly ESOL teachers from Prince George's and surrounding school districts to spend a few weeks in Ipala, get to know the culture and see examples of the background where many of the immigrant kids had come from. Likewise, teachers visited our area, and in particular, spent a lot of time at Riverdale Elementary School, as well as William Wirt and a few other schools. I think Templeton doesn't exist anymore. Is that right? I thought if I'm incorrect, pardon me. I believe I'd heard that school had changed or moved to a different location. Anyway, the point being that because of what was available and of interest in each community, we were able to have interesting exchanges of teachers over a number of years. And those were among the activities that we did. I think to have a functioning and vibrant sister city program, that it needs to not just be the government, a few government officials coming to visit, a few other government officials, but actually things from out in the community, like teaching, like sports activities, and other things that didn't happen before. That doesn't mean they couldn't happen now. So anyway, that's the hand that's outstretched from EPALA to try to rejuvenate that, and like to, if possible, start a dialogue about what we might be able to do to rekindle that friendship.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation and taking the time and your efforts in not just leading the town for 12 years, but also being a part of a program like this, and then even coming back. You're still a resident of Riverdale Park, which we all appreciate, and so coming back and sharing not just this idea and extending the welcome, which I'm gracious to have, but also your perspective on this is super important. I appreciate that.
Sorry, I have to straighten that out. While I still own property in Riverdale, I actually have gone native. I live in EPALA now. I come back here, and it's a great privilege to be able to easily come back and forth, because I love EPALA and I love Riverdale, and it's wonderful to be able to come back and forth. And a lot of folks aren't so privileged, but that's another way around it is you've got to you don't have to stay if you go south. You don't have to stay in a hotel. You can come stay at my house.
Noted. Any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember.
Mayor Archer, if you could fill in a little more of the background history as the origins for really fostering the Sister City program with EPALA, essentially what that was going to be able to demonstrate at that time, which when you look back now was somewhat a bit pioneering at that point in time, in the sense that I believe it was, you had mentioned that you were looking with this program to demonstrate that to be able to have good, strong relations with a sister city and able to help them with programs to, in a way, help develop the city, as well as to be able to work with other governing bodies to help through economic development, be able to build a culture and lifestyle there that would give residents consideration of remaining there and building a life there, as opposed to having to migrate to other places to find work.
Well, yeah, that's one of the goals that certainly I had was trying to find ways in which people were able to get the skill set and try to foster education in EPALA that would enable them to stay in EPALA and build a tourist industry. That was one of the things that was interesting for EPALA to develop a cadre of young people that were fluent in English, and thereby kind of foster more tourism. EPALA is, if you see pictures of Guatemala, kind of the standard tourism, that's not EPALA. EPALA is off in the corner. If you look at the map where Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador meet, EPALA is very close to that corner. More in the central part of the country is the tourist area, Antigua de Guatemala, Panajachel, the old capital area, and high mountains, and more indigenous population that and Ipala is, beans, corns, cows, farmers, and was trying to develop other ways of economic development. And they've had some success in the 20 years. And obviously most of the success is because of what they've done. We helped a little. And I think that's, was kind of the same thing with the Ipaltecos up here, trying to help, see institutions get built, sporting institutions, have places where the community could meet and gather and interact with not just each other, but that would be attractive for middle out loss for words for native-born Americans. I was about to say Native Americans. Wait, that's a little that's technically correct but misleading. Those kinds of things were already happening here, and they were able to help what was going on to build those immigrant institutions, and churches as well. A lot of them, while we didn't get formally connected with the churches, a lot of the people who came saw that as an opportunity as well to build their churches. And so yeah, you're looking for things from the community. I guess the idea of a sister city is not just the government. The government, kind of takes the lead and goes out and, who in the community is interested in this? What can we do? And start, a conversation of, do some brainstorming. And, I know a number of teachers would just love to get back up here again. And ones who've been here before, my wife included. But other younger teachers who've never had the chance and would love to be able to come up here and do some activities. Obviously, language barriers. So a lot of what they did, the Ipalteco teachers tended to do things like art projects, cultural projects, dance, music next door. So did that answer?
Yeah, it did. I think from also what I remember at that time too, one of the similarities from the time that you came into the office and what you were addressing at that time were a fair number of structural issues like in town within also the governance of town, which was similar to, and at the same time, from what I remember, the city of Ipala was also trying to find new ways that they could better run their public works department and other different departments that they had. Being able to come up here, see what it is that we do here, what it is that Prince George's County does, what it is that the state of Maryland does. For them was things that they could, in the words of Martin O'Malley, find 3 really good ideas, steal them and take them back home and use them.
Right.
There was a lot of that, and there was a lot of cultural exchanges. We had a Riverdale Park Day where they came up and brought up, it was about 15, 20 folks, put on a presentation of folk dancing in full regalia. It was really something to see. From what I remember, this program, it was a really dynamic program. It was a program that really benefited both communities with the groups that would go down to Ipala, which I remember was like mostly during the summertime, and the folks who came up here to to essentially partake in what activities were arranged here. I think for this body, this is something that we really should consider going forward, and how we can be a catalyst towards other groups in this area being able to get involved in this program. It was during the time that it was very active during those 11 years. A lot was going on that was beneficial to both cities.
Thank you,
Indeed.
Councilmember. Any other questions or comments from any council members?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
First, thanks for being here tonight, Mayor Archer. Good to see you
pleasure.
again. I'm wondering, great to hear how successful this program's been in the past and how we've been able to exchange, make that cultural exchange, share, maybe best practices on civil administration and things of that nature. But as you mentioned, that goes both ways, right? I'm wondering, from your point of view, what's going on in Apala that we can learn from here and that we can do better here in Riverdale Park?
Well, from that point, since I don't actually, work with and see too much of what's going on in the municipal government, it'd be a little bit difficult for me to answer. I think they struggle with similar problems, particularly, just basic nuts and bolts things, how to, make sure that that the trash gets picked up, stay ahead of the infrastructure maintenance. They're constantly struggling to try to expand. It's a community that is growing and developing. But then how do you keep up the old streets while there's great demand to pave new areas?
Sounds like they have a Maryland Avenue in Apala.
Yes, they do have several Maryland Avenues. But I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to answer that in real detail. I think a lot of a lot of people have moved back and forth, both voluntarily and above board, as well as involuntarily or literally translated, and the word is wet. But one of the advantages they have is that they're a lot more independent, because they're a municipality out in the middle of proverbial nowhere. And I'm not sure, maybe they could help you figure out how to take advantage of pretending you're in the middle of nowhere, and figuring out how to be a little it's a different place. It is a different place, just a different setting. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions from council or the public? What I'll add is just, the idea of cultural exchanges is something that I know at every form of government is something that people actively participate in. I know I was talking to our own county council member who just came back from a week-long trip to Seoul, and was hearing about his experience there and the value of, one, just seeing how other cultures solve problems that we're struggling to, and as well as what their strengths and maybe the differences in particular cultures, and the value. There was like an economic development element of it as well, but even besides that, I think there's value in that. This is something that I know, had it not, one of the many things probably the pandemic has claimed in reality, and I think it's a worthwhile conversation for this body to think about, how do we be intentional in terms of how we sort of, start this program again, knowing that we may need to work back up some of the muscle that might have been lost over the last, 5 or 6 years. But what might that look like if there's opportunities for it? Would love to, respond back to the mayor of Paula as well personally. But I'm assuming that you'll sort of willingly act as a conduit to sort of help that process.
Exactly. And of course, with the internet, Zoom, as I mentioned earlier, Mayor Javier speaks English quite well himself. Not perfectly, but if you want to have a conversation with him, you'll have a conversation with him in English. Very, very personable, very, very friendly, straightforward kind of guy. And I'm very, very happy to try to facilitate that. He is, as you all have, many other things to do. So I would commit myself to being available to be the go-between and try to make sure everybody culturally understands each other, even though you won't need me to translate. But for the language, but to help make sure everybody understands each other across the cultural barriers as well. And love to see it happen again. Love to see it come back to life.
Me too. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to leave the letter with the town manager, and he has my means to get a hold of me. I'm happy to talk, informally with anyone who'd like to, but for the meantime, I'll wait to hear from you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have three proclamations. So we start with our Small Business Saturday proclamation. Okay. Approve that. All right. Whereas the government of Riverdale Park, Maryland celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 36.2 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 88.9% of net new jobs created from March 2023 to March 2024. And whereas small businesses employ 45.9% of employees in the private sector of the United States, and whereas 97% of Small Business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact that they make by shopping small, 85% of them are also encouraged friends and families to do so too. And whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shop online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, more than 50% of customers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at local business because of the social media recommendation. And whereas Riverdale Park, Maryland supports our local businesses and creates jobs, boosts our local economy, and preserves our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Ifiak C. Inyang, Mayor of Riverdale Park, Maryland, do hereby proclaim on November 29th, 2025 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, to be affixed on this third day of November 2025. I encourage everybody to figure out what business you're going to choose on Saturday. And if you need to wait in line a little bit longer, it's worth it, well worth it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Next up, we have the Municipal Government Works Month proclamation. The mayor and council of the town of Riverdale Park proclaim November to be the Municipal Government Works Month. Whereas the town of Riverdale Park was incorporated in 1920, and whereas Maryland is home to 157 other municipalities, and whereas the municipal government represents the most responsive level of government, allowing citizens to have direct access to elected officials, and whereas in an effort to educate citizens about municipal government and the importance of their participation, the town of Riverdale Park is proud to promote municipal government awareness. And whereas municipalities have enhanced the quality of life for their respective residents, if you can scroll down a little bit, maintaining natural and historic sites and structures, and helping to make Maryland a great place to live, work, play, and explore. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the town of Riverdale Park hereby join the Maryland Municipal League in declaring November to be Municipal Government Works Month in Riverdale Park. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, to be affixed this third day of November, 2025. And our last proclamation is in recognition of Veterans Day, which is November 11th. Whereas in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day and called upon Americans everywhere to be rededicate themselves to the cause of peace. And whereas President Eisenhower also issued a presidential order directing the head of the Veterans Administration to form a Veterans Day committee to organize and oversee the national observance of Veterans Day. And whereas each year the Veterans Day National Committee releases an official poster with a theme for Veterans Day, and the theme for Veterans Day 2025 is service to our nation. And whereas the sacrifices of those who serve and have served in the armed forces and their families have been vital in maintaining our freedoms and way of life. And whereas veterans are brave and selfless individuals who willingly put themselves in harm's way to defend the lives and liberties of others. And whereas veterans make significant contributions to the community in all phases of our economic, social, cultural, and political life. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park honors veterans and will recognize and honor our veterans on November 11th at 11 a.m. with a special ceremony. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Riverdale Park mayor and council do here proclaim November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day and call on everyone in our community to recognize and honor Veterans Day with the appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause seal of the town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, to be affixed this third day of November, 2025. I hope everyone would join us on November 11th for our Veterans Day service and ceremony. Looking forward to that as well. Thank you for that. Moving on to our agenda, next we have our consent agenda, which has our 4 items plus the 5th, which is the fence permit requests for 4812 Madison Street. Will also be part of our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingwood, second by Councilmember Smith. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop. Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Next up, we have our 2 remaining legislative action items. Starting with number 2, the motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Hyattsville CDC for Public Arts Initiative. Is there a presentation from staff?
Only if there's additional questions, sir.
Okay. If there are no questions, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Hyattsville CDC for the purpose of managing our public art initiative
In the amount of $28,000?
in the amount of
$28,000.
the amount of $20,000 and not to exceed $20,000.
Okay, is that a motion? Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua and seconded by Councilmember Worsnop. Any discussion on the motion? From council, from the public? Okay. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Okay. And last on our legislative action items is a motion to approve the state legislative priorities. We talked about this a number of times. There's a legislative dinner that will be happening this year on December 2nd. This list has been sort of pulled together from last year's legislative priorities with slight tweaks. We've talked about this before. Is there a motion to approve legislative priorities, or are there questions for staff beforehand?
Mr. Mayor.
Council member?
Thank you. Quick question for staff. Last meeting, the mayor brought up the fact that there may be introduced again legislation relating to cooperation with DHS and local law enforcement. And I was just wondering if what happened with that conversation? Were we going to include that in this or no? The 287G legislation? Is this not the right vehicle for that? Just clarify.
Yeah, I would defer to the mayor.
Okay.
It can, if folks want to add so for those who are not aware, 287G is the part of the ICE regulation that allows for local governments to essentially be deputized to sort of serve in the fulfillment of ICE activities. There is a current law or current legislation that passed the House but did not pass the Senate in the last legislative session that was introduced by Delegate Williams from District 22 to try and make Maryland there's maybe only 6 or 7 states that have formally passed legislation to bar that level of participation. And so is your question on?
I'm just wondering why it wasn't included in this list. I know we had discussed that our delegation is already in support of it. I just didn't know if it would also make sense to kind of reaffirm our support for that position.
Is that what you're requesting?
That is what I'm requesting.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We can, any other comments around the legislative priorities? Then we can vote on that to include.
Mr. Mayor.
Council member.
Thank you. One thing I see on the first item here, affordable housing, and this is something that I've learned a lot more about in the last year working around experts on this subject, and that is that affordable housing is like a very particular policy vehicle. And it's different from housing affordability, which is more general and includes things like eliminating restrictions on what can be built and just generally adding to housing inventory. And I'm wondering if we could make that adjustment here for our priorities to housing affordability. And I know it seems like a sort of semantic thing, but as I have learned, it's actually a pretty important difference. And I think we shouldn't limit ourselves to just construction of affordable housing, but also anything that adds to inventory and makes housing more affordable. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council member. So we don't have a motion on the table, which is good because we're making some edits live. I think you're right. There is a difference between affordable housing and housing affordability. Is there, you intentionally want to keep it to that term more broadly?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and to be clear, I think affordable housing, that policy preference is good too, but it's a bit more narrow. And I think, especially since there was a bill that I believe didn't make it through legislature last time that addressed affordable housing and housing affordability, in terms of constructions of things like ADUs and, what a property owner can build by right on property that they own. I think it would be worthwhile to weigh in support of that kind of policy.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Malingo, you have a muted, mic is unmuted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if my colleague from the First Ward would be able to expand on a little bit the difference between affordable housing and housing affordability, not just for those of us in the room, but anyone who might be listening at home. You know, while there is a difference, it seems that affordable housing would be incorporated in the concept of housing affordability, falling under that broader umbrella. But I was hoping that he might be able to touch on, the wider scope of what this would involve as well.
I'm happy to do that, Mr. Mayor.
Please, Councilmember.
Yeah, sure. And I am, I work with the foremost expert on this. I am not that person. And I know the town manager has a lot of background in this area as well. So please correct me if I get anything wrong. But as I understand it, affordable housing typically means setting aside a portion of a building or creating an entire building with subsidies, rent controls, that sort of thing that allows people to gain housing at lower than the market rate. What some of the academics on this that study, the economists would tell you is that that's great, but you can't solve the housing affordability problem that way. You can get a few units for a few people, but overall it discourages builders from initiating projects, because when you put a cap on what they can rent the unit for, it makes the overall building less profitable. They're less interested in building that sort of project, and will go to another jurisdiction where they can make a greater profit. So I think affordable housing is, a component of any strategy for affordable housing that we would want to implement. However, the ultimate problem is that there is not enough supply of housing. So in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, when credit markets tightened, we essentially in America, including Maryland and PG County, didn't really build any new housing units for about 5 years. And then when we started building again, it picked up kind of slow. And it took a good while for construction to get back to pace with population growth. But in the interim, population kept growing at the same rate. So we're seeing in our community, of course, but across the country, from big metropolises on the coast to small rural communities, even the town of 5,000 people where my mom lives is experiencing this. There aren't enough homes for the number of people that need them. And it's, a classic supply and demand problem. Anything we can do to add more housing supply to bridge that gap of what wasn't construction in those years when credit markets were tight, puts downward pressure on rents, home prices, all of that sort of thing to make housing more affordable. And in fact, there's, a pretty direct correlation that you can see when you look at the data across America. The only places where rents are being stabilized or even falling are places like Minneapolis, Austin, Knoxville, Tennessee. There's several others. I won't rattle off the whole list, but the thing that they all have in common is that in the last 10 years or so, they have removed barriers to building new housing and have rapidly scaled up their construction of new housing units at market rate. And in some places there's subsidies and there's affordable housing, but the bulk of the added inventory that has caused rents to come down and home prices to come down has been market rate housing, but built at a very fast rate to meet that demand. Does that address the question? And please, Mr. Town Manager, anybody else, please feel free to add on to that.
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager.
If I may, Council Member, I agree with what you said. The one thing I would point out to the council, what you're discussing now are the District 22 joint priorities. So whatever you all decide on that, Mr. Mayor, we're going to need you to talk with the other mayors in advance of this legislative dinner to make sure that there is consensus to make these types of adjustments.
Thank you, Town Manager. Yes, and you're correct. You're giving me homework, but this is good. These are good. These are good changes. And just quickly, could we scroll down to the rest of this list? The sort of specific priorities for our town. I believe the council is sort of okay with those. Stormwater management project. We talk about the connectivity. I had the list. Okay, yes, the proposed bond initiatives, which are the stormwater management project, as well as the Purple Line neighborhood connectivity project, and the support for some of the infrastructure projects along sidewalks along East West Highway and the bridge on Riverdale Road bridge project. So we've talked about that in length. And so based on what I'm hearing, I believe it would be a motion to approve the state legislative priorities with edits of changing affordable housing to housing affordability and adding, I believe it was, I just looked it up, support of the Maryland Values Act, which ended the 287G program in Maryland. Is there a second to that? Or is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Worsnop and second by Councilmember Smith. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. And I will get to work getting the rest of the members on board. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have unfinished business, Mayor and Council FY 2027 budget priorities. Any presentation from staff?
Good evening, Mayor and Yang and members of the council. This is just another opportunity to discuss some priorities for the fiscal year 2027 budget. As we discussed last week, it's important to get things in as soon as possible. So we always start this budget process as early as possible. Some of the items that were discussed last week were included in the list below. So please go ahead and add anything else you may have in mind. I think we talked a little bit about stormwater management projects. We talked about walk, bike, drive infrastructure projects. We talked about the sidewalk behind Riversdale House Museum on Oglethorpe Street. We talked about freshwater issues maybe in some areas. So there were lots of different topics. We talked about Wi-Fi extenders and those things I believe are all included on the list. Advancement of Adam and Emily Plummer Park, continuing to address food insecurity. So I think please let us know if we missed anything from last week's conversation or if you have anything you'd like to add to that list. Some of those are priority areas or things that you'd like the staff to be aware of. So please feel free to add to that list.
Thank you, Deputy Town Manager. Any other comments or thoughts?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if staff had learned any more, and this may be why it's not on the list, but about maintaining the clock in town center. Again, as stated last week, there are lots of things on this project that I understand are do and should take priority over keeping the clock running. I'm more or less just interested if we have investigated to the point that we've discovered that it's like not feasible given other priorities to necessarily have that maintenance done. Just more or less looking for an update.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Town Manager.
I do not have an update. Director Lewis, do you have an update on the clock in town center? We'll have to get.
I do not. I apologize. I'm having some computer issues. I do not have a current update.
And thank you, Director Lewis. What I would say, Mr. Mayor, is as soon as we understand the status, we'll get that taken care of. The other thing I think we have to consider is I'm afraid so, sir. But with the redesign of the trolley trail on that, I'm not sure if the clock gets moved. And so we'd have to find balance on that as well. So as soon as we know, sir, we'll give you an update. And if there's a quick fix to just carry us through till the project happens, then we'll make sure that happens, sir.
I appreciate that. And again, I know I'm asking about a clock when we have lots of big issues here. If it's something we can get fixed, I'd like to see it happen. But of course, I know with things like big fancy clocks, sometimes a thing that seems like a quick fix gets to be a 5 or 6 figure job quickly. And that's, the kind of thing we would have to appropriately prioritize. So appreciate staff following up on that and keeping us informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember.
The clock has been an ongoing issue, for lack of a better term, for a very, very long time. So
it's time to solve it?
well, that would be great. Whether that's, each time that it's been fixed, we thought, okay, here's the solution. We've got it running. It's running fine, and it runs fine for a while. And then something about what's going on inside just, causes it to have the errors, that essentially lose its pace, so to speak. We're keeping it up there. Maybe it's something that we're looking to, reinvent the wheel on and trying to find another way to do something with the internals there that allow it to be more accurate for a greater consistent amount of time. No pun intended.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that from my colleague. I would add,
Your mic.
I appreciate that from my colleague. I would add, and this is a good problem to add or have. It has been a problem for a while. I have started hearing about it more recently, and I think that is a product of similar to our town center redesign project. Is that 5 years ago, we did not on a daily basis have lines down the sidewalk in front of that clock waiting to get into our businesses in town center, and we do have that now, and that's a good thing. And so people stand there longer, they notice the clock. So that's a demand from services from the constituency. So I do appreciate the history there. And maybe we can get it fixed once and for all here soon.
Thank you.
Would be nice.
One item that I'd like to add is around, we've talked about the economic development or trying to get more suggestions, trying to be more knowledgeable about ways or suggestions in terms of supporting, outside of just the legacy town, the Mutsy sort of areas. Kenilworth Avenue in particular is a major corridor for us that has probably lacked investment and some vision as well in a lot of years. And with the Purple Line coming as well, I think a priority for FY27 would be, whatever funds we can do that we may need to partner with someone else to sort of start thinking more holistically about, what the town could do in terms of learning more about opportunities and suggestions that could be done from an investment perspective in that area. So I would like to add that to the list for priorities. Okay. Any other priorities?
Mr. Mayor, I would probably also add to that southern half of Route 1.
Okay, 7.5. So we can expand it to just be more sort of town-wide, but the southern half of Route 1, you're saying?
South of 410.
Okay. Okay,
narrow and small as it may be.
yeah,
It's a gateway area.
okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember.
Just to kind of reiterate the importance of pedestrian safety programs. In a number of our conversations, some spots in town that do not have any sidewalks and don't have adequate lighting have been highlighted, and I just wanted to express support for town resources going to those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great list. Anything else from council? If you think of anything else, please feel free to reach out to staff at any point in time. This is the beginning of many conversations we'll have about the budget. It starts earlier and earlier every year, but it's because our budgets are increasingly more and more complicated. And so the more time we have on task, the better we are for it. Okay. So with that, we are coming up on our new business. The first is a motion regarding written testimony for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, MNCPPC, annual budget forums, which have already happened, but they are accepting written testimony until tomorrow by mail, fax, or email, and November 4th. So I know this was shared.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So, edits at 8:00 will be a challenge, but I think it's still worth it talking about. So hopefully council has been able to sort of read the comments. If there's any discussion on that,
Mr. Mayor?
council member.
I shared this comment with staff earlier, yesterday. Apologies for the delay. But received a message from a resident in the Madison Hill community just requesting that the playground material on the ground material of the tot lot, which I have now found is the same as the Community Hill playground, I guess, multiple names, but that general maintenance and potential replacement of the ground cover at the playground be considered as well, because they were pointing out a number of safety concerns that they saw with that.
Thank you. So more than the equipment, the actual
The
floor.
mulch
Got it.
that's down. Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Lingua.
How did you know?
It's a sixth sense. I'm developing it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Staff's gonna look at me odd now when I bring this up, because it's been such the issue on the table for a number of years. I think this time around, I'm gonna be using the other shoe, for what is now, according to MNCPPC, with their new design, the new sign that they put in, Riverside Drive Park. They changed the name.
They had to keep River in.
They kept the Riverside in. Well, because at a time that the river was right along that side of the road. That 1904 map's around here somewhere, so I know it'll get back up. So that'll be a good thing. As much as, we've talked about the half basketball court, as well as the volleyball court, and I still think that those would be great to see. I think really what needs to occur over at Riverside Drive Park is kind of finishing some projects that they started. One of those being the softball field. While we are greatly appreciative that they put in the new fence, we're now at a point where what really needs help there is a rescaping of the infield. So that in a sense that there's a little bit more of a water runoff. So you're not, after a considerable rain, it's not 4 days for the infield to, at least over on the third base side, to dry out. even as of yesterday evening, or actually this morning, that portion was still, for lack of a better term, tacky. I think really that would be, it's going to make the fence a lot more, worthwhile, money well spent. It's just redoing that. In terms of the other two, it's really hard to say. I would probably go with the volleyball courts. I think the other thing, and I don't know if this is going to be for this forum or not, or if it's just, asking them to augment their field maintenance portion of their budget, in the sense that the football/soccer field is getting much more use, and that whatever they can do to help us, and help themselves with commons management on that, in terms of how that field is being, being allotted to be used. And I think that's also a dialogue that's working with us, being that I have not heard otherwise, that there's still a memorandum of understanding on the books regarding permitting priority for the town at that field, which was enacted in 2005. I haven't heard Park and Planning come back and say, no, we want to step away from this. I think us being able to revisit that, and in other ways, trying to find ways to work with Park and Planning, to help them manage that park. And I'm sure there's going to be probably a number of conversations. Again, an appreciation as well that they've refurbished the bathroom facilities. I think, again, that's where they've gotten to is great. Probably some minor adjustments in there need help. Lighting in there of some sort that's low cost, sustainable, however you want to phrase it. Because I get, for women using the bathroom, they do not feel safe going in at certain points because there's no lighting inside. It's usually folks are, besides going in with groups, they also just keep the door propped open, as well. So, and being able to work with them, being how the weather is, and it can be, trying to find ways to have it more available than not, even during the months where temperatures fluctuate. Again, part of that working relationship with them to help them have a facility that's really usable by all. One other last note, the new playground that they put in might need a second going over due to how it was put in the first time. It seems that with the surface, there are a number of recurring issues where the surface is breaking off and breaking apart, and they have to come in and patch it. And it might be they just might need to do a relaying of that surface, due to the confusion on establishing a perimeter the first time around. And I'll leave it at that.
So, Councilmember, to clarify, are you suggesting to eliminate the request for the half basketball court and volleyball court and instead sort of finish some of the projects that they've already started?
I wouldn't so much want to eliminate them, but essentially just say, at this point, we feel it would be, while we would like to see that if not this year, in the coming future, that being that they have committed funds already to improving the fencing around the softball field, getting that infield re-landscaped so there's a greater use for it. Because there are people who want to use that field, but due to the fact that The infield now has kind of been grown over. It's not so much that diamond with an arc shape, it's just this circle. It's not really an infield, and it's also, it's just been kind of smoothed over and smoothed over and just dragged a number of times, that it's really now getting more to be concave, and it needs to have more of a convex surface to it. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. I appreciate the geometry lesson as well. I had to figure out, I was like, I think you are right. You are right. You are right. I think you're definitely right. Does staff have enough? I think we probably maybe add a few more sentences to sort of say that ongoing project that they're doing, to sort of, that's okay.
Yeah, I
Does it
think
make
what we
sense?
heard was that the priority would be complete the ongoing things and delineate what those are.
Mhm.
But keep the half basketball court and that on there.
Volleyball court.
Yeah.
Not saying we wouldn't want to see them, but you've already got funds committed to these areas.
We w-
Let's find a way to augment them, so it's money well spent.
Mr. Mayor, we haven't enough. We'll make those edits to the letter.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
They changed the name on us.
Yeah, they did. Gotta watch out. They're doing it all over. They're doing it all over the place.
We have an opportunity to change the name. I think we should think about that, what their process would be. Okay. Next up, we have a motion to authorize the town manager to use up to $25,000 from the contingency fund to reactivate the Farmers Market Dollars program with the following conditions. The SNAP program remains suspended. Should the SNAP program remain suspended past Friday, November 7th, 2025. The second condition, if the reauthorization would continue for a 30-day period and then be reevaluated on December 5th, 2025, and a future budget amendment would replenish the amount expended from the contingency fund. Any staff presentation on this, town manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, we bring this proposal to you this evening out of concern for the food security of our residents. So the council made a donation last week, $5,000 to Passion and Compassion. I just checked the headlines to see what the update is, and the update is that the federal government's going to half the SNAP benefits for November. But as I understand it, and I've been following this fairly closely, there's $6 billion in funds that for a program that costs $9 billion a month. So if the government shutdown continues, then we would have to be concerned into December as well. And so out of this concern, the staff team got together and we've talked about how the town may be able to provide assistance. So we looked at a program that the council and the community know about and are very familiar with, and that's the Farmers Market Dollar Program. And then we said, well, how can we possibly fund this? So we still have some money with the vendor. There's $12,000 with the vendor that we were holding off on asking for the refund for, just to make sure this wasn't going to be a possibility. But so there's $12,000 there, and then the council indicated that you were not in support of Placer AI. We had that presentation, and we had about $20,000 in the Economic Development Fund, which is the fund that we used for the Farmers Market Dollar Program. So we can have funding available, but we don't have a good idea of the impact of the government shutdown right now in terms of how many additional families. When we had the Farmers Market Dollar Program, we came to know 230 families that we helped every month. And we have an understanding of what would likely be that need. We don't know the scope of the additional need. I don't come to you likely this evening asking to take from contingency for this, but I don't believe there's time for a budget amendment. So for programs that staff are working on, the emergency assistant grant programs, it's taken us some time to put those together. So we think a budget amendment is the appropriate vehicle for that. Here, we're not sure if we put up the sign that says the farmer's market program program is reestablished. We don't know the volume of folks that are going to be coming to us. So I was seeking authorization to, if needed, be able to tap into the contingency account for $25,000 to help fund that. And under the conditions we put here, or under any additional conditions that the council would like to see. Some other things that we're working on is for the Yifty is the name of the vendor, for those cards to be accepted at Mega Mart as well as other groceries in town. So Mr. Shelton's working on that, and so we're trying to be as wide as we can to provide assistance to the community. And our initial thought is that we would go into this with what the program was, and that was $25 a week in assistance. And we would load the cards for 2 weeks at a time, trying to be fiscally responsible. We used to load the cards monthly when we had the federal government paying for the program. But we would load it for 2 weeks and then see what happens with the government shutdown and whether the SNAP program benefits are reestablished. And with that, Mr. Mayor, we'll take any questions. We do believe we can stand it up quickly. And if given direction tonight, we would work this week to stand it up.
Thank you, Town Manager. One of the things that I think everyone is sort of looking at food insecurity here. I think for folks who were laid off earlier this year or furloughed now with the government shutdown and the uncertainty around that, this is definitely sort of a top issue that's impacting folks right now. I know that Governor Moore just announced, as of the Washington Post published an article as of like 5:54 today, that Maryland will pay the portion of federal food stamp benefits not covered by the federal government for November. And I think they sort of did it's going to be like $62 million or so, sort of cover the portion that's not covered by the federal government, joining DC and Virginia. And so I still think that there's value in authorizing this. The situation is extremely fluid. Obviously, we're talking about things that have changed in the last few hours. There's a need here. We talked about the farmers market dollar program, and it was highly used, and you can argue it wasn't. It was all that we could do, but definitely not sufficient. And if money wasn't an issue, we would love to give more, and we couldn't. But I personally feel like this is still a worthwhile authorization. But just knowing that as of 2 hours ago, at least the governor has mentioned that he plans to support at least for November. But again, this might be a month-to-month thing. So to the town manager's point, if anyone on council has any thoughts on this or additional stipulations or conditions, would love to have a conversation about that.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you for flagging the announcement from the governor. Very important, and I agree that we should still fund this program for a few different reasons. One, as you mentioned, there are a number of folks who are either furloughed or have been laid off by the federal government that I believe once you apply from SNAP benefits, it takes at least a month or so to become eligible. So folks who are currently furloughed probably, if they might be eligible from SNAP, don't have access to those benefits right now. There's certainly certain categories of immigrants that can't obtain federal SNAP benefits, and we know that community is, certainly hurting right now. So I think this this programming and this funding would go to great use. I'm wondering, staff mentioned, this 200 some odd folks that we know of that had previously accessed this program, and as I understand it, when it was operational, the outreach on this was fairly targeted and appropriately so. As staff also noted, the need is likely broader now, and I'm wondering if, and we don't have to get into the nuts and bolts, the details of that, but if there is a sort of any thought input to how we identify through outreach folks who may not have been served by this program before, but would absolutely need it now.
Mr. Town
I'll make a general statement. We try to meet the different segments of our community where they are. And so we have communication with the immigrant community, for example. And that's not necessarily through Facebook, but that's through smaller meetings. So we would make sure we advertise the program there, as well as we'd put it on our social media platforms. And if I can continue, Mr. Mayor, in response to the, we have different populations in that. So when we first set up the program, if someone was a SNAP recipient, we had a lower benefit because you're receiving some federal subsidy, and then we had a lower benefit. And for folks who could not participate in a federal benefit, then they got the full amount. So staff would look at who's eligible for what, and then we would need flexibility in managing this. As the mayor said, things are changing in a couple hours. So we would look for some flexibility and have staff be able to adjust the program to the conditions. And good to recall, though, our burn rate in funding was in the low 20s per month. So if we have 12 and then 20, we're 32, you add the 25, you're talking 2 months of where we could provide assistance. And so we'll crunch some new numbers now that it looks like SNAP will continue for November at least. And we can make sure we work to keep the council updated should you authorize this.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any other comments from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Council member.
I agree completely that we should still fund this, even given the state level changes. Grateful for those changes, but as everyone has said, situation remains uncertain. I want to thank staff for putting this together and thinking of creative ways to make sure that we can still support our community while being fiscally responsible. Even though it's, not months and months of support, we should obviously still be doing whatever we can. So thank you.
Thank you, council member. A question I have is around when would the replenishment of the contingency fund take place? Is the staff have a recommendation on that? I'm assuming we wouldn't want to be down, a quarter, 20%, 25% of what the contingency fund is for an extended period of time?
We are actually working on a proposed budget amendment to move money from reserves to the Community Development Fund to fund that emergency assistance program. And we would wrap that into the same budget amendment. So with any luck, we'd be back either the end of November or early December for that budget amendment process to begin.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember.
I would just add, depending on how all of this goes, if we run into a situation where there is a need to replenish funding for this in advance of when we are scheduled to meet again, that'd be the kind of thing that I think I would certainly support a special session to do so. If necessary, hopefully it won't be, but I can be on call in case it does.
Cancel your holiday plans. I believe the idea of the sort of check-in and 30-day period is to that point, to try to touch back in with the council if necessary. Councilman Lingua?
So we'd be looking at something either the 24th or the 1st, correct?
In terms of,
If you needed to get back to the council.
yes, sir. Yes. And if something changes in between, we'll reach out to the council and
Between now and the 24th if something.
yes, or maybe between now and 9:30. I don't want to be too light about this, but things are changing and fluid, and if we end up finding the need is going to far exceed this, and our projection of having 2 months shrinks to 5 weeks, then we make sure that we're keeping you in the loop on that. The other thing that ties not directly to this, but to food insecurity is that the idea that we've talked about with the One Riverdale Park and the food pantries, we have ordered the food pantries. And so as soon as they're in, and we're actually getting residents now saying, how can we donate food and how can we make this a reality?
Okay.
So we will get food pantries set up throughout the town. And that'll be another way that residents can help residents and the town can help residents as well.
So that being said, any Councilmember Cologne, you caught off mute? Do you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember.
what I'm suggesting, $25 is too little for a man to live on for a week. Why can't we increase it a little bit? Because the $25 is too little. Yeah, that's my suggestion.
Thank you. It was 25,000 for the movement from contingency. I don't think we covered a dollar amount.
The benefit of the program is $25 a week. Mr. Chelton, is that correct?
That is correct, Town Manager.
So we understand that that's insufficient to feed a family. It's meant to provide assistance. And as all of our programs are, it's a gap. If you think of it as a gap in terms of providing assistance, it's not going to feed a person, but it may help. And it may help feed a family. And between that and the food banks and the partial SNAP, and unfortunately, we do not have the funds where we can just feed 200 plus families. The town doesn't have those resources.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the perspective. We could, the math is pretty simple. We could double it and then we go to a 1 month runway, right? And so I think if anything, learning how expensive food is and how the amount of insecurity is real. But yeah, I think it's a question of just, I think, looking around the council, we know 25 isn't ideal, but the idea of increasing that and decreasing the runway of assistance is I don't believe we have the intention to do that. So hopefully that answered your question, Councilmember. Okay. So with that, is there a motion? Do I see it? Do I hear a motion?
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to utilize up to $25,000 from the contingency fund in order to reactivate the Farmers Market Dollars program with the following conditions. Number one, the SNAP program remains suspended past Friday, November 7, 2025. The reauthorization would continue for a period of 30 days and then be reevaluated on 5 December 2025. And a future budget amendment would replenish the amount expended from the contingency fund. I'd like to back up to number one, being that we've just, when this was written prior to what we're now finding out, being that the federal government is saying that they're going to fund half. I'm just going to eliminate that and just leave it to the those two conditions, number 2 and number 3.
Thank you, council member. Is there a second to that motion?
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua and second by Councilmember Worsnop with the to authorize the town manager to utilize up to $25,000 from contingency to reactivate the Farmers Market Dollar programs with 2 conditions: a 30-day sort of check-in period and a budget amendment to replenish the amount extended by the contingency fund. Any discussion on the motion?
None additional.
Okay. Council comments, public comments? Okay, we'll go to roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Councilmember Smith.
I believe we skipped voting on new business item number 1. I know we had a good amount of discussion, but if I recall correctly, we didn't actually vote. And that motion was still on the table. So I think we may need to go back and vote on that one. And apologies if I'm wrong about that. Did we not have a motion? I thought there was a motion. Okay, well, we didn't have a motion either.
We had a
so-
nice discussion.
Yeah, we had a nice discussion because we were editing in real time.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that. So there's not, but we'll come back to that. Appreciate the point of order. So the motion passes 6-0 on the authorization from the contingency fund of $25,000 with those 2 stipulations. All right, let's go back to the written testimony from Maryland Capital Park and Planning Commission. There were edits to the list that we talked about. The town staff were aware of those edits. I don't have the list in front of me now, but do you want to
Mr. Mayor.
offer this motion, sir? Since you
If this is in order, I'd like to move to approve the written testimony for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission annual budget forums with adjustments as discussed by council or as outlined by council.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Smith and second by Councilmember Lingua. Any comments or discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember.
I would just ask of staff if that is a sufficient motion, if you feel like you have what you need for that. Okay, thank you.
Head nods in the room. Okay. We'll go to a roll call vote since we had a great discussion on this already. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop. Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. That motion passes 6-0. All right. Next up, we have the mayor's report, town manager's report, and then our council reports. For the mayor's report, I'll first start off by, really excited to be able to swear in a new police officer on, what was that, Tuesday? It was last week, Friday. A lot of swearing in, as well as 3 members from the Defined Benefit Plan Board of Trustees. But talking to the town manager about our police staff and this notion that I think now for the first time, and I don't know how long, we're fully staffed as a police department, which I remember when I first joined the council 3 years ago, there was a large conversation about just how hard it is to recruit police, how resources, and it's an extremely competitive environment. And so to see not only folks willing to recommit to the town every time, but also to sort of expand our ranks and get people through the academy process and with program, which I know is its own challenge. It was great to see at least 10 or 12 members of the force sort of show up and support our new officer. I'm appreciative of that. I know in our town, at least, we talk a lot about what values do we have we want our police to have. There's a whole chapter in our town code that talk about what they can and what they can't do. And, this notion of being more than just the person you call when things go bad, but also the resource that that might be their, first connection with the town. We talk about decades of sort of building relationships with the community. In the event that when times are like what we currently see now, we can lean on some of those. And so I know that those values will continue with our new officer, and I'm sure that's maybe even part of the reason why she chose to join this company. So was honored to be able to sort of participate in my first swearing in from a police officer, and then also one of the things that I've been thinking about for a while is just these meetings themselves. I think our last meeting went 3 hours, and I cut it short. It's challenging things that we talk about. If it was just sort of mundane, routine things, I think some of us wouldn't be up here, or definitely wouldn't be serving for almost 2 decades. I think the things we talk about more and more is life and death for folks. Which I don't think, I can speak for myself, wasn't what I thought of initially when I first joined. It was more, it was getting people to stop in front of the stop sign in front of my house, and speed humps on Woodbury Street, and life and death in some ways. But this is, I think, a lot different than that. And, but those both, we're getting those done, and those are still important. But I think, I just bring it up because I know that we've had some tense meetings. We've had exchanges that have been tough. We talk about decorum and what does that mean? And for me, it's really about professionally what I do as a chief of staff for, the technology org at MasterCard is I find myself engaging with a lot of big personalities, and we have a lot of really intense conversations about topics that are really challenging. And we have almost like an ethos that I try to permit and build upon, is be tough on the problem, not the people. And, we can debate an issue to death. We can make sure that we're attacking it from every angle. I think that is what is expected. We should dissent in a respectful way. That is what is needed. We're better off from that. But for our context, I think, just remembering to lean into our ideas and sort of attacking the ideas as much as possible, so that so that none of our words get misconstrued as attacking people or anything personal. I think we need all the ideas, not just on council staff, but even our community, as we think about what does it mean for our immigrant population? What does it mean for food insecurity in the area? The list goes on and on. What does it mean for healthcare that's rising? We're dealing with national issues that are very much local, and we can't run from that. And so therefore, we need a functioning council where folks can feel empowered to be able to bring ideas, agree and disagree, and not feel like they aren't being heard or anyone feeling like they're being attacked. And so with that, I'll end the rest of my report. I know I'm looking forward to Veterans Day coming up on the 11th. I was supposed to be out of the country, then in the country, then out of the country again. So my schedule's changed. I will be in the country. And so we'll have more words to say at that time. And then just lastly, I know Fletcher's Field, which is, on our southern border of the town, they redid their playground, and there'll be a ribbon cutting next Wednesday, I believe. So me and Mayor Gant will cut a ribbon. Hopefully they're big scissors for that. But what I'm excited about is this idea that we need to continuously improve the areas that our community look to gather in a safe way. We talked a lot about ideas in many parks in our community. We've talked a lot about, how do we improve those? And so this is an example of doing that. And so I'm looking forward to that, and, looking forward to continue to think about opportunities for us as a community to come together in ways that are productive. And so with that, I will conclude the rest of my report. Next up, we have the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I want to start to just kind of give you a heads up on a walk, bike, drive related safety issue. So it was pointed out to us that an issue that we've reported to the state over the last 9 years that I've been here, I think former Mayor Thompson had reported this to the state for maybe a decade before that, and that is we need sidewalks on East-West Highway. And but what was pointed out to us is that between Taylor and 49th on the north side, so the westbound traffic on east-west, there are some students who have to walk through their neighbors' yards and then step into the roadway in order to get to the corner of Taylor. And so we've met with the person who reached out to us and said, hey, this situation is currently happening. We've met with Principal Riley. We've met with the Prince George's County Safe Passage Coordinator. It's a Safe Walk to School program. And so they're evaluating it. Director Lewis, Ms. Barnes, myself, we've reviewed the parcels, and we're looking at it from the town's perspective. And our conclusion is sidewalk needs installed. Some trees are going to have to come down, and a sidewalk needs installed. And it's not our right of way. It's not our responsibility, but it needs to occur. So we've reached out to the District 3 engineer office. That's the SHA district for this area. And Director Lewis, as of late this afternoon, hadn't received a reply. So Mr. Mayor, we're going to work with you, but I think it's important the whole council knows about this. And I think outreach to Senator Washington's office, as well as if the county can help, I think we're all gonna have to pitch in, both to push the effort, and I think the town should be prepared to figure out how maybe we could offer some funding as well, if the state doesn't have it funded, just to address this. So I don't have a proposal on that tonight. All this started, I think, last Wednesday or Thursday, and we've had several meetings, and we're trying to figure it out. But in case you receive a call about a need of a sidewalk in that area, town staff are on it, and we're reaching out to our state counterparts. And Mr. Mayor, perhaps we can touch base tomorrow on outreach on the political side of things. So I wanted to share that, and then a few few things. So we held a coffee with a cop back on the 22nd of October. It was a lot of fun, and we want to thank Starbucks for hosting. We also had trunk or treat on the 24th at Riverdale Plaza. We had over 200 young people attend. And while we do not promote necessarily officers participating in TikTok dances, some of the older kids were asking the officers to dance. But what's really a real positive thing here, and I've mentioned this before, the number of parents that approach our police officers and ask, can we have our children get their picture taken with you? So if there's ever a question about the type of culture that we have in our police department, that should be some insight. Or in, I guess, police work, they call that a clue. And so I think that's important. And a special recognition for Officer Bustamante, who he has for a long time DJ'd those events, and he DJ'd that as well. On the 21st of November is the Passion and Compassion. That's a group we had just given some funding to. They're having a Thanksgiving food basket giveaway, and it's important to know that the town sponsors that. That's an appropriation you make in the approved budget. And the mayor mentioned the new officer, and also for Riverdale Elementary in the approved budget, we managed to fund 91 coats, 39 pair of pants, 10 skirts, and 70 shirts for their students.
Sorry, Mr. Town Manager, can you repeat those?
So for Riverdale Elementary School, for their students, 91 coats, 39 pair of pants, 10 skirts, and 70 shirts that the town funded for them. And we did learn that the Sustainable Communities designation for the greater Riverdale area, which includes our town of Riverdale Park, has been approved by the Sustainable Growth Coordinating Committee, and that's part of Maryland DHCD. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. And with that, we will go to ward reports. As is our tradition, we'll go in order. Councilmember Smith from Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great to see all the neighborhood kids out and about on Halloween. Saw some very cool costumes. Saw a very young child, maybe 4 or 5 or so, in a costume of the UPS delivery person. So I made sure to encourage them to make sure they sign their Teamsters Union card, as is my practice of anyone who's eligible to join a union. The Smith household remains a full candy bar household. I forgot to mention that last week during our meeting. Mr. Mayor, I have one put back for you if you'd like to drop by sometime. We also added a fog machine this year, and noticed that our candy supply depleted faster than in previous years. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but always great to see everybody out in the those kind of community events. I did have one question for staff, and I'm not sure, I meant to check on the way over here if the Mark station, not just the little house, but the full length of our area there, was taped up with caution tape over the weekend. It was not the building, which I know we are responsible for, but the larger area. So I'm assuming it was not us that taped it off, but CSX or somebody. I'm just wondering if we know why that had happened.
So I believe that's for some utility work that is happening. It's happening near the train station. We received some information about it. They have a permit and all that good stuff. I was hoping to know about the utility work before it started, but that's likely what's happening.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's the kind of thing that I know you guys are in regular contact with those folks. So I don't want to ask to, reach out specifically about that to say, hey, can you let us know before you do that? Because, I'm sure you'll talk to them anyway, and I'm sure you communicate that anyway, and I'm sure they still don't do it, but let's just remind them if we could, and appreciate that. Since we last met in this body, ICE enforcement, federal law enforcement continues apace to invade communities. In Chicago, a federal judge specifically ordered federal immigration enforcement to be limited on Halloween so families could enjoy trick-or-treating. However, as reported by the New York Times, federal immigration agents fanned out across Chicago and its North Shore suburbs on Halloween, chasing suspects through yards, driving SUVs onto sidewalks, and using chemical agents. In one case, a woman was driving to get coffee when a DHS vehicle fleeing a crowd crashed into her car. Armed agents jumped out of the vehicle, yanked her door open, or pulled her by the legs out of the car at gunpoint, held her incommunicado for hours, then released her with no charge. Closer by in Harrisonburg, Virginia, ICE detained a mother driving her daughter to school when she couldn't repeat her social security number that she had just recently obtained. Agents became flustered and just lunged at her, her daughter said. She showed agents her work permit, her social security card, her driver's license, and her car registration, and they arrested her anyway. And then it's been reported in several area outlets that publicly available information on federal contracts that in Baltimore, essentially the same contracts that were put out for bid just before federal authorities went in heavy in Chicago and Los Angeles, those have now been put out for bid in Baltimore. So hopefully that is not an indication of what we can expect here, but I fear that it may be in our area sooner rather than later. And we've constantly talked about how, it's kind of an accident of geography that this hasn't occurred in our town yet. It's occurred pretty much everywhere neighboring us. And, we should expect that it will happen here. And I've talked at length in this body about what I'd like to see us do as a town to be able to protect people, not just support people. And the support is important. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for everything staff does. And all the creative ideas that come before us. And I recognize that my thoughts on where we should go and how we should handle that aren't shared by, maybe not, council staff, everyone. But I think we all have the same goal, and I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse there, but I'd like us to continue to think about what we can do aside from the support to protect people before things like this happen. And I want to acknowledge, sort of the stuff we funded last week that staff brought to us, and I'm grateful for that, around know your rights trainings and distributions of cards and things like that. And I'm happy to see that. But I hope we can continue to think creatively in that manner about what we do beforehand, not just supporting people after. And I have some ideas that I like are kind of half baked, right? I know they might not be right, but just as we're kind of thinking about this, like people still need to get to work and school and church. What can we do to ensure those folks get there safely? Whether that's, some kind of escort problems or program. And I know there's issues there with what we can do, and we certainly don't have the manpower to escort everyone to where we need to go, but maybe there's something around rideshare vouchers or ensuring that we're doing something that makes people feel safer at bus stops and their route to the train. And I'm not asking for any answers or responses on that this evening, but the belt on this is getting tighter and tighter to our town, and it's going to happen here. And we know folks in our community, but hasn't happened within our jurisdiction, right? They have family members and people they love that have already been picked up, and that they might not know where they are right now. So yeah, I just want to first thoroughly thank staff and say that I appreciate everything you do every day, everything that you've brought to this council, everything that we've been able to vote and support, and encourage that sort of creative thinking to continue. And hopefully we can come up with some ideas for, needs that aren't being met yet, creative ways we can help people get to work, school, and church, and ensure that everybody in our community feels as safe as they should. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Folks here and folks on Zoom. This will be brief. I've been hearing from residents of southern portion of Taylor Road regarding excessive speed down there. And my one question to staff is I know that we have a schedule from last year's CIP for road improvements, which I believe is including speed humps. And I was wondering if I could get an update to pass on to folks on when they can expect to see speed humps going in down along that portion of Taylor.
I'll get with Director Lewis in the morning, sir, and we'll get your response.
Okay, and I'll be forwarding along the email I've received from one of the residents. I've had others just come up and talk to me personally about this, but I'll send that along as well. Lastly, I just want to, over the past 2 months, I just wanted to bring before this body in recognition of the passing of 2 very active women who lived in Riverdale Park, who are no longer with us. That being both residents of Ravenswood on Ravenswood Street. That being Audrey Bragg and Lisa Martin. Lisa was the victim of an accident on a bicycle ride up along in the USDA property up there, struck by a vehicle, her and another rider. The other rider sustained numerous injuries, yet survived. Unfortunately, Lisa did not. And Lisa was a longtime resident, very active in the community in ways that contributed to the community by way of her participation with the Route 1 Aero Bicycles Route 1 Velo Club, which a lot of residents here and in Hyattsville and other areas participate in. Her work during her day was with, I believe, with the IEW, with the union, helping with their digital messaging. Mother of 2 kids, recently remarried, stepmother to 2 other kids. She was a really just shining light of this community and what this community can be and what it can offer. And hers was a life that, an untimely death and leaving all much too soon. Another bright light in this town for numerous years was Audrey Bragg, realtor in town. She and Simon Plog ran the, when it was still there, the bookstore, where at the old station stop for the trolley station, that building that used to be the ticketing station. They had a bookstore in there. They had music there on Saturday nights. Audrey was one of the originators of she essentially started the Festival of Lights and Holiday Market by getting 2 trolleys and running them around town, and as well as allowing vendors to set up wherever they could find inside the bookstore to sell what they had. Lots of hot chocolate, lots of pastries, lots of stuff. Caroling, trolley elves were collared and volunteered and donned silly hats and black tights. I was new. And that's kind of where that genesis started. And Audrey was someone who wanted to see better for the town. And she was a person who was going to roll up her sleeves to do it. One story I have of her is when word got out that this body was looking to sell the 6 lots at the corner of Lafayette and Tuckerman, what was then known as the Field of Dreams, which we now know as Adam and Emily Francis Plummer Park. The reason being that they needed it because they needed to make sure the budget was balanced as by law at the end of the fiscal year. And when a number of residents heard about this and we're talking about this and we're talking about possibly bringing this to a referendum vote, around went Audrey Bragg. Clipboard in hand, form filled out, pen in hand to folks that she knew who were registered voters to get signatures for that petition. She started that up and then helped others with organizing and getting more petitions out, so that there were enough signatures for the petition, so that this could come to a referendum vote. This action by the council at that time would come to a referendum vote in early September of 2004. She was very much feet on the ground, roll up the sleeves. Okay, this is a great idea, but we need signatures. And she was out front doing so. She would do what she could, one way or another, to promote this town and make this a better community. And she was one of these people that was always fun to see, always welcoming to see you. She would have a good story here and there about the town, of one sort or another, and I'll leave it at that. But it was always she was just this vast wealth of institutional history about the town, and she cared about it deeply. And again, another person who has left this community, that really wanted to find a way to, as we try and do now, find ways that neighbors can help neighbors. Another program that she set up, just loose volunteer network, so to help folks out, in one way or another if they could. She was very much so about this community. And I'm very much proud to call her a friend and a neighbor as well. And with that, I'll conclude the report.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ward 4, Councilmember Worsnop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank two groups of people. First, our variety of residents that I've been in touch with over the past few weeks about a range of issues in Riverdale Park Station and in Madison Hill. Thank you for being in touch. We rely on residents to be advocates for the community. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And in turn, also want to extend thanks again to town staff, all of whom spent, over an hour with me just this week, but also many other weeks, addressing these issues and talking them through, so that we can, best serve the community. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciated. And I look forward to getting back in touch with everybody that reached out to me to address the issues they brought up. I'm going to leave it there, but thanks all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ramos from Ward 5.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. In reference to my ward, I just want to say that it's been very quiet in WhatsApp just because at this point, and I'm not trying to give a sob story, but we've been more focused on getting home and getting to work, and nothing happens to us. I want to say us because I feel that I am a part of them, because I have to hear their stories, I have to hear their fears. So we've been very quiet. I know the past week, just last week, was a celebration of Dia de los Muertos. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. In Riverdale, it was a little quiet as well. Usually in Las Placitas, which is in Edmonston, they do something small, but it was also canceled due to fear of immigration. Otherwise than that, I really don't have much to say. Hope everyone's doing well.
Councilmember Kalan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and town manager, the deputy town manager, and my council members. I say hi to everybody. Mr. Major, I'm concerned about one thing. 54th place, that playing ground that they built, no restroom facilities. In fact, the main gate to go inside, they break it. Yes, I want the town manager or the deputy town manager to go and visit, or some of the staff to see for themselves. And number two, the town manager said he's going to ask the PEPCO people to see when they're going to fix that street lights from that 54th place area, 54th Avenue area there. So I don't know if he asked them or they give you any good answer to the town manager or not. But then number three, I would like the chief to detail some police officers in the night to patrol this area, 54th place, up to 7-Eleven and right down. You know, they say prevention is better than cure. When they see the police present in the night, I think for now we don't have no crime, but they say prevention is better than cure. So I would like the police to patrol this 54th Avenue, all the buildings, complex. So maybe that will be a good thing for us here. Thank you. I stop so far.
Thank you, council member. I think if you have something you want to respond to now, you can. If you can follow up in writing, I think about the issues that were brought up by the council member.
Yeah, I'll just add it to the list for Director Lewis. We'll send something out to the council tomorrow on the streetlights and speed humps. And we currently patrol all those areas and will continue to, sir.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, council members, for your ward reports and for this meeting. I know we had a lot of great discussions and looking forward to this. The next time we meet will be the end of the month-ish with the holidays. It's actually a little earlier. It's like November 24th. So we'll see you in 3 weeks. But first, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
So
No one wants to leave? All right, motion by Councilmember Lingua, second by Councilmember Smith. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan?
aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned at 9:13. Have a good night.